Good morning, scholars. Today is Thursday, March 19th, and this is the second day of Science Online Learning. Hopefully, yesterday's video gave you a whole recap of how to navigate our Google Classroom and find out what you need in order to complete the day's lesson. So for today's lesson, let's jump right into the Google Classroom. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. Share screen right here, and right now you should be able to see my screen. If you aren't, go ahead and contact me, but for the most part you should be able to see what I'm seeing right now. Before we get into the directions for today's lesson, remember that I will be posting these videos 8:35 every single morning of each school day. Now, the instructional messages on the announcements will be posted 8 a.m. This video will come in later, only because I need you to read the instructions before viewing this video so you know exactly what we'll be talking about today. Quick shout out, first of all, for the first couple of scholars that submitted their work within the first 2 hours of this video being, or the last video being posted. Those scholars are these 12 scholars right here: Aaron, David, Kayla, M, Valentino, Jaden, Miracle, Jesus, Alexander, Miles, Aziel, Anila, and Zaire. Shout out for you for completing the exit ticket at the least. So remember, your exit ticket is how I count attendance and put attendance in for the day. And remember, it is due 3:30 p.m. like all your other assignments. The day of, not the next day, not the day before, the day of. Now, let's go ahead and jump into today's lesson. I am going to go to the proxy tab, which will appear in a second. And today's lesson is right here, Thursday, March 19th, 2020. Students will be able to identify a credible source to prepare to explain how an organism plays a role in all levels of an ecosystem. So what does that mean? Let's go ahead and go through the steps in order. First, let's read the following. For the next couple of days, you will learn about an organism of your choice, and you will learn about its place in the ecosystem, and you will present your findings. With the same organism, you will later create a compelling advertisement to exhibit your organism in a zoo. So in summary, you're going to choose an organism, whether that be a plant, an animal, a decomposer, whatever. You will choose an organism to learn about. Then you will present what you found out about them to your peers, and after that assignment is over, hopefully we'll be at school at this point, but then we will create an advertisement to exhibit your organism in a zoo setting. Now, this is a project. This relates back to our previous lesson on how an ecosystem is organized. In your exit ticket, I should have at least seen you mention that how an ecosystem is organized shows how an organism can affect the different levels of an ecosystem. For example, we are doing things online because of what's called the coronavirus, or what we know as COVID-19. This is a virus. It is abiotic, which means it's not living. It is not living because it does not meet the requirements in order to be living. Now, the requirements to be living are as follows. I'm going to pull up an old PowerPoint that tells us what it means to be living. Living things are composed of cells, multiple cells. A virus is a single cellular organism. A virus does not grow, reproduce, and eventually die. It needs a host in order to reproduce. Without it, it will die. And it doesn't require energy for its processes. Again, it needs a host, like humans. That is why an organism is not living. Now, I am going to show a couple of facts later on about the coronavirus, which will relate to today's assignment. But I just wanted to show you that a virus is an abiotic organism. It is, and if I didn't mention this before, at the individual level, we have a single coronavirus. Let me say that again, at the individual level of an ecosystem, because the first level is individual. Let's say, for example, we have one single coronavirus. At the species level, we know that the coronavirus is a virus as a species. It's a certain type of virus, but let's not get into that. But we know as a species, as humans, a virus, the coronavirus has its own species. So there are multiple of them. In a population, we can say that maybe there are a couple cases of the coronavirus around here in Patterson. So that would be an example of a population of the coronavirus. Now, a community of the coronavirus would include other biotic organisms in the area the coronavirus is in. Particularly, the biotic organisms we're concerned about with are us, humans. Now, disregarding the confirmed cases of the coronavirus, we know the coronavirus exists because humans, another biotic organism, have shown to contract or get the coronavirus. Now, there are news articles that I will post on today's lesson that show other biotic organisms such as pets that do not contract. Pets don't generally get the coronavirus. So what we're concerned about in terms of the population, or excuse me, the community, is human individuals, the human species with the coronavirus. Already, if you don't get the picture, we see an interplay between the species of a virus and other biotic organisms at the community level. At the ecosystem level, we include not only biotic organisms, we also include abiotic materials. Now remember, we just talked about the virus being abiotic and human beings being biotic, and also pets being biotic. Now, what's relevant here, if we're talking about the levels of an ecosystem with a virus, is that the virus can live on different surfaces, abiotic surfaces, for certain amounts of time. Again, I am going to show a number of resources in a bit that describe this. So, included in our ecosystem level of the levels of an ecosystem, we have biotic organisms and abiotic factors as well. Those abiotic factors could be countertops, door handles, it could be hard surfaces generally. That is where a virus can linger. And that is where a species of a virus or the individual virus itself can affect different levels of an ecosystem. And obviously, our last level of an ecosystem, the biosphere, which is the entire world. We can obviously see, if you've been watching the news, if you've been checking your internet sources, you can obviously see that the virus has already, for the lack of a better term, occurred at a biosphere level. So we already have an abiotic virus interacting with abiotic factors, interacting with other biotic factors all over the world, our biosphere. Now, that's just a general recap of yesterday's lesson, hopefully putting it in a real world context of how important it is to understand the levels of an ecosystem, because an organism affects all levels, just like a virus, an abiotic thing, affects all levels of an ecosystem. Now, for the first step, I'm asking you to watch this quick YouTube video to get us started on our assignment. This YouTube video is about zoos. Are zoos good or bad for animals? Make sure you watch this so that you prep yourself in terms of which animal, which organism am I going to choose to research. Now, after you've done that, all right, I watched the videos, I got an idea of what this project is going to be. The second step is to open up the assignment titled Organism Project Part 1. So I'm going to open up that assignment and I'm going to go to the document and I'm going to read these two sections: identifying your organism and finding a credible source. So let's go to the assignment. Again, I'm in my proxy class, Organism Project Part 1. Each of you should have a copy of this assignment. Again, I'm only focusing on two sections of this assignment for today: identifying my organism and finding a credible source. So let's walk through this together. I open up my document, it's opening. Okay, how is my organism related to the ecosystem? That is the actual lesson for these next couple of days. This is the project. So the goal is to research an organism and its place in the ecosystem, and then eventually you are going to present your findings to everybody else. But first, in the blank space, I need to identify my organism. Now, I'm going to put a random organism, and remember, some organisms have common names, but others have scientific names. I need you, it isn't specified here, to put down at the least the scientific name. What I mean is this: let's say, for example, I wanted to do my project, and remember, I'm going to argue later on that this organism needs to be put in a zoo. Let's say, for example, I choose the Chihuahua, and yes, the dog Chihuahua, not the location in Mexico, but the dog Chihuahua. But if you didn't already know, this isn't the name of the species of the Chihuahua. This is just the common name, not the scientific name. The actual scientific name, let me pull it up here right now, is the Canis familiaris. So I'm going to put Canis familiaris on here. So this is my organism, the Chihuahua, the Canis familiaris. Boom. I've already checked one thing I got to do for today's assignment. Next, I have to find a credible source in order to do my research. Now below, you can already find on my screen a research portion that indicates the questions you need to answer, and all these questions have to deal with what you learned yesterday about the levels of an ecosystem. So you are answering questions, you are conducting research on how your organism affects the different levels of an ecosystem. So first, I need to find a credible source online. Well, that should be easy, right? Well, not exactly. To find a credible source, let's go ahead and find the credible source criteria. Now, there is a scoring criteria, and you are going to indicate where your source lands. Between 21 and 18 points, I say that the source is credible. between 17 and 13 points, your source is somewhat credible. Between 12 and 7, don't even think about it. So here are the criteria, and please read this on your own time. But let's say, for example, I go online and search up different things. Now, I am not going to search up the Canis familiaris. Instead, I'm going to go back to our previous example of the virus and say, okay, I may have found a credible source talking about this virus. And maybe I can use this as a source for my research. But before we get to that, two things. One, you cannot use my models as your own project. So if you're thinking about using the Chihuahua, do not use the Chihuahua. If you're thinking about using the coronavirus as your organism, do not use the coronavirus. It is not a biotic organism. You cannot exhibit it as in a zoo. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and look if this source is a credible source. So I've already pre-set up a source that I believe is a credible source. But first, let's go through the criteria together to see if this is credible. For 3, for extreme credibility, author's name is easy to find or the author's previous knowledge and experience with the subject. On my website about the virus, I have, let's see if I can navigate. Here we go. I have a website from the CDC. The CDC stands for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Now, are there authors for this? I'm looking through it and it's like there's no particular name, but I already see down here, and this is where you usually find the evidence. I already see that this is part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. This is part of USA.gov. And if I open USA.gov, I see that this is an official guide to government information and services. So even though there's no particular author, I am super able to access that information here. They are clear about it here in their contact information. So if I were to go back on this, author's previous knowledge, obviously they're the CDC, they do this research. I can go ahead and highlight this. Highlight, bold, I don't care as long as you indicate. Boom, highlighted. Contact information, we just went over that. It was easy to see. It was right there available for us to use. Organization, the website is sponsored by a respectable, well-known organization. The sponsoring organization is clearly identified. Is it clearly identified? Of course it is. USA.gov, we just went over how credible that was. It's part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So a bigger branch of the U.S. government. And oh, look at that. They have information of exactly what I'm looking for, which is this virus. This boosts up their credibility. Look at all this. They have contact information, where they're located. So they're not trying to hide anything. This tells me that yes, they're super organized. I can find what I'm looking for. I'm gonna give that a 3. Update frequently. This virus is fairly frequent. It's news, it's happening right now. So yes, I would say that it is updated frequently. Sign up for email updates. They have updates right here. I don't know why it says 2019. It's the year 2020. They got that wrong. Last updated March 17, 2020. Maybe they're not super responsible with naming the website information or updating the website page, but I can firmly still conclude that, okay, this is updated in 2020, just a couple of days ago. They update this rather frequently. Gonna highlight that or bold it, whatever indicator you choose. Factuality, yes. The facts are there. I'm gonna post these websites as model credibility or credible sources, but without going too much in the details, the facts are here. Now they have a summary of the situation here. This data is extremely useful if you have time during the day to even check it out. Remember, knowledge is power, especially with something so important today. This is information I suggest you read into. So is the information accurate? Of course it is. Of course it is. It's scientific. The author, the CDC, cites other sources. We did see that. And lastly, the website exists to educate. Yes. Copy and paste your website here. Let me go ahead and do that right now. After this goes away, I'm going to copy, paste, and paste it right here. Boom. Was your website credible? Now, this is where my conversation with you, that's where it goes in. So I would type everything I said into this space, addressing each component of credibility. Yes, the author was easy to find. Yes, contact information was also easy to find. Organization, update frequency, etc., etc. Now, once you're done with all that, all you have to do is go back. All right, I'm done. Let's go ahead and look at it. Complete those 2 sections. Make sure they're completed. Hint. After that, I go ahead and submit my completed work. You are done for today, but not yet. Remember, assignments are due 3:30 p.m., but also due is your exit ticket. So after I completed my assignment for today, I'll go, okay, 319 science exit ticket. This is the exit ticket. Write my name, today's objective. Did I achieve today's objective? And a question, how do you know if a website online is credible? After that, you submit, you're done, wash your hands, and then you can move on to the next subject. Or if you're done, great, you're done with school for today. Now, a couple things I want us to remind you. Remember, everything will be posted daily. The exit ticket and written instructions, 8 o'clock sharp, depending on how quick this internet thing is. Around 8:35, these instructional videos. Now, if you have any questions, be sure to rewind this video and watch the sections you need to watch again. If those don't clarify things, reach out to me between the hours of 8 to 10 and 2 to 4. Again, everything is due 3:30 p.m. the day of. Exit ticket counts as your attendance, so super important to submit that. Last but not least, I will put these websites on the line to make sure we're all updated as to what we are expecting and what we should be doing in times like these. Remember to wash your hands, keep basic hygiene a necessity, and remember, do not travel, and this is a suggestion by the CDC, do not travel unless you need to do so. And try avoiding crowds, because that's how we reduce the likelihood of transmitting a virus. Now, there are a whole bunch of other facts that I can continue talking about this. Feel free to reach out to me about it. But let me go ahead and stop sharing, close this video so that this video file isn't too large, and I will see you tomorrow for the next update on today's or for these next couple of days' project. All right, thank you very much, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.